Like many, Halo 1 was a huge part of my childhood and helped shape who I am today. With the reboot coming around, I wanted to make one last love letter to this game that holds so many precious memories. And I might have got a little carried away. I hope you enjoy. The game begins with the Pillar of Autumn discovering Halo, while being chased by a Covenant fleet. Cortana, a shipborne AI who looks different than I remember, wakes us up to try and stop the assault. And just like that, we're thrown in control of John Halo. I proceed to skedaddle over to the ridge to talk with the captain, but not before watching a man reach escape velocity due to one of the skulls I enabled, which I'll get back to later. The captain monologues about how dangerous it is for AI to fall into the hands of the enemy. Something about our technology and the coordinates to Earth being stored in her or something. I inject the brain rot straight into my cerebral cortex and start heading for the escape pods, definitely never dying on the way there. Okay, well I mean, to be fair, it's on legendary mode. We finally reach the escape pod along with a handful of Marines and start our descent to Halo. Something about flying past the giant ring in the sky really brought me back to my childhood. Halo was a game that got me into sci-fi and shaped a lot of my future interests like space and horror, but we'll get back to the latter later. For now, let's resume our graceful descent. All of the Marines die in the landing process. And this is where I truly run into my first complaint about Halo 1. When I spawn in, I no longer have the weapons from the last mission, and it defaults me back to the assault rifle and Magnum. Now, I love the Magnum, but why can't I carry over what I was holding from previous missions? That aside, the view outside was breathtaking. For 2001. Yeah, this didn't age well, but to me and my nostalgia, it was just as beautiful as the last time I saw it. After I was done taking in the view, I worked my way up to the cliff to look for more survivors. I find a couple, but they all die instantly, followed by me dying about 5 times. Yeah, this game's a lot harder than I remember, though as a child I had the difficulty a bit lower. Hey, at least I got to see Jackals and Needlers again, 2 very iconic parts of Halo. I finally managed to clear out the Covenant in the area, and then watch as 3 other life pods rocket by my screen. Then I'm tasked with attempting, keyword attempting, to rescue them. Foehammer, our Pelican pilot, drops off a Warthog with a gunner to assist me with this goal, and I'm off. I really miss the slippery control of the Warthog. It absolutely doesn't feel realistic at all, but then again, this is a game about giant ring-shaped superweapons and a guy who wears a suit of armor that canonically costs the same as an entire battleship. It sure can pull off some sick drifts though. I then activate a light bridge and forget my gunner behind, leaving me alone yet again, aside from the voice in my head. After we escape from the tunnel, we find the 3 crashed pods from earlier and save any survivors. This segment was always really cool to me at the time, as you can rescue the survivors in any order that you want, and Foehammer will just pick you up at the last location you visit. Oh, fun fact here by the way, speedrunners tend to just kill the Marines themselves, as it makes the mission much faster when you don't have to wait for them to get rescued. Speaking of which, spoiler alert, they all died. Except for these 2 who were lucky enough to jump in the car with me before I could run them over. I definitely wasn't trying to speedrun, but my tires were hungry and my fellow Marines were easy calories. Honestly, I doubt they were going to survive on Legendary anyway. I swear they die every time no matter what I do. Moving on, we're dropped off with a sniper rifle, a group of Marines, and a goal to infiltrate a Covenant cruiser that's parked overhead. This mission feels like it's supposed to be a stealth mission, but in reality it's a full-on fire weight the whole way through. Though, keep that mention of stealth in mind, as I will absolutely be taking the stealth option in the future, and this game does stealth surprisingly well for a 2001 shooter focused on gunning down aliens. I start by losing every single Marine companion the game gave me at record pace. Now alone again, I opt for the slow approach. Snipe who I can with my limited ammo, and find other ways to take out enemies. Yes, this is as ineffective as it looks. Seriously, when the enemy uses these things, they hit like an e-signature. But the moment the Chief jumps in one, they're borderline useless. The infinite ammo is nice though, if you have the patience. Through these questionable tactics, I make my way to the Grav Lift, the entrance to the Covenant cruiser. Here I am graced with the presence of new allies for a grand total of about 15 seconds before resorting to playing like an absolute bitch. Wait, are those hunters? I totally forgot this is the mission that Halo decides to introduce hunters. The Covenant's walking tanks. They aren't actually singular beings, but more of a hive mind of little worms known as Lek Golo. that form together and wear their armor, which is so heavy that you effectively can't do any damage unless you hit the fleshy bits. Unless you have some sort of splash damage or flank them to deal critical damage to their exposed backs, they're borderline unkillable. Anyway, apparently the energy pistol's charge shot does splash damage, and thanks to all the dead grunts and jackals piled around, there is plenty of ammo. So I dealt with the two hunters fairly easily. That being said, next time I see them, I won't be in such an open area, nor will it be so easy. Now it's time to ascend into the Covenant cruiser. I am yet again blessed with the presence of more Marine companions, who proceed to sabotage me by jinxing the entire situation, saying the ship is empty.
What? There's no Covenant here.
Right before we're greeted by a new enemy. Well, not new per se, but it's an invisible elite with the iconic energy sword. The first one goes down without a problem, then my friendly Marine's immaculate Waluigi impression distracts me from the second's arrival. This time armed with the knowledge that there will be more than one sword elite, I play it safer and manage to get to the end of the room and am greeted by two more hunters. When I foreshadowed I would have issues earlier, I was not talking about these two. Though, they did launch me a few times thanks to the Sputnik skull I was using. Ironically, this skull almost exclusively hurts me, but man is it fun. This, however, is also something I will come to regret later, as well as the introduction of a second skull in the next mission. But back to the mission at hand. We are to find and rescue Captain Keyes from this cruiser, so I fight my way through various corridors until I find a prison cell. The captain wasn't here, but he had to be close, so I headed over to the neighboring cell, and sure enough, after some light Covenant resistance, I ended up finding him. Cortana informs us the Covenant are searching for Halo's control room, so we decide to head to the nearest ship bay and steal a troop transport ship to intercept them. Also, why can Keyes die? Nowhere else in this entire game does it let key NPCs die, nor does it care if they do, they just respawn next mission. Sure, on normal or heroic this isn't a problem, but on legendary or god forbid lasso runs? Keyes has a health pool of a Victorian orphan, and the Covenant may as well be Scarlet Fever. In the end, I just decided to take a play from the movie Edge of Tomorrow and live, die, repeat my way through. By rushing in front of Keyes, I was able to figure out where the enemies were coming from one spawn point at a time, until we managed to make it to the landing bay and procure the ship, where Keyes is immediately forgiven for his hate crimes against my sanity as he pulls off a glorious hit and run, just like I did to the Marines earlier. This filled me with a newfound camaraderie towards Keyes. We are then flown to an island to find the Silent Cartographer, an ancient map that will lead us to the control room. Oh, and this is probably a good time to mention I also enabled the Boom Skull, which doubles explosive damage. Sounds good, right? Wrong. The enemy have access to more explosives than I do. Oh, and the Boom Skull just so happens to stack with the Sputnik Skull I had already been using up to this point, and together they turn enemy grenades as well as hunter projectiles into thermonuclear missiles. And let's not even get started about the Wraiths I'll have to fight later on, but that's for later. For now, let's find the Silent Cartographer. Me and my squad of highly expendable Marines land on the beach only to discover the Covenant beat us here. You know the story by now. My Marines die nearly instantly, and I make my way through the Covenant, then hop on a Warthog to try and find a way under the island. I slowly work my way through each combat by using the Warthog's machine gun. This is effectively a mobile version of the Shade Turret strategy I used before, but this gun can actually deal damage and move around. After clearing out the area, I head underground only for a sword elite to slam the door in my face. How rude. I guess I'll need to find another way to unlock the door. Heading further down the coast, Cortana spots a path into the interior of the island.
Looks like there is a path into the interior of the island.
Some small Covenant resistance is in my way before I reach the realization of my mistakes. Remember how I mentioned hunters were going to be a problem later on? Well, later on is right now. With the Boom Skull added on top of the Sputnik Skull, their explosions are in magnitudes more dangerous. Oh, and for a fun little cherry on top, Sputnik even affects their melee attack, causing them to be able to hurl me across the map. Seriously, look at the airtime. If this were Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I would have pulled a sick combo. They took turns throwing me onto the trees, back to the beach, and on the hill. One time I even landed further ahead in the mission and tried to skip progression, but it didn't work. I missed a trigger point that happens in the hallway after their fight, so I got lost for a bit and circled the entire island before committing to the fight against these monstrosities. I ended up beating them with a combination of a well-placed magnum shot, grenade spam, and energy pistol charge shots. Well, hunters are basically mini-bosses in Halo, so at least I won't have to deal with any more for a while. Oh, come on. And this time they're indoors, so I can't even cheese them. After a quick surprise death, I devised a strategy I like to call Operation Break Their Ankles. And I pulled it off flawlessly. You can even hear me celebrate live right here. Yes! A cutscene is triggered and the locked door from earlier is open. Now I just need to make my way back. But not before I get ambushed by 6 invisible elites because Bungie are sick and twisted developers. I take it slow and manage to kill them all after a few tries, then I loot a rocket launcher off a nearby crash, and finally head back to that locked door. Oh yeah, check out this sick skip by the way. After some relatively easy mobbing segments and stealth assassinations, the silent cartographer is found and we can make our way back outside. The only real problem I had when escaping was taking 2 hunters at once who were blocking the stairway out. I give the first one back shots pretty easily, and the second hunter quickly knocks me out, bringing me to 1 HP and nearly slips me into the hole. After some masterful baiting, I managed to give the other hunter his back shots as well, finishing him off. With that, the rest of my escape was super easy, so I met up with Fohammer and we made our way to Halo's control room. The cutscene throws in a fun fact right before we ambush a group of grunts. God, I love this cutscene. I immediately employ my patented shade turret strat and just as immediately die. So instead I came up with the idea of instead using my beloved turret as cover. This was much more effective. That's funny. Now one thing to note before I walk through this door, there's a massive repetition shaped elephant present in this Halo shaped room. This mission is a big offender but not the biggest. There are 2 other missions coming up that I'll address when we get there. But just know that for your viewing pleasure, I'll be heavily editing out any excessive repetition and covering mainly the story bits and interesting segments. I find my way through the next room and make my way to our first bridge segment. These bridge segments are a good example of the phrase, "What is of supreme importance in war is to attack the enemy's strategy," from Sun Tzu's Art of War. In this case, the enemy's strategy is a 2-pronged approach. There are the enemies on foot guarding the bridge and pushing towards you, and there are the banshees in the sky running strafing runs on you. The bridge is filled with viable cover, but generally you can only really defend from one of these 2 attacks at once. When the banshees are repositioning after a strafe run, it's a good time to shoot the enemies on foot, but you also need to take time to damage or even take out the banshees before the force in front of you pushes too far. These bridges make you make choices. They force you to, as Sun Tzu says, attack the enemy's strategy, and they make you do it fast. They are, in my opinion, the single best example of Halo 1's AI and its ability to work together, as well as how much thought is put into Halo 1's enemy encounters. Anyway, with PewDiePie's nemesis out of the way, we move outside. The mission is also the first real introduction to vehicle-on-vehicle combat. Previously we had vehicles, but now so did the enemy, and big ones at that. Meet the Wraith. These are massive artillery slinging tanks with very strong armor. Oh, and yes, in case you were wondering, both the Boom and Sputnik Skull do make these far deadlier than normal. Luckily, the game provides a rocket launcher as well as some ghosts. Well, the ghosts weren't exactly provided, but I stole one. The rocket makes quick work of the Wraith, and the ghost makes work of the infantry. It's not quick, but it's much better than going on foot. After the area is cleared, I round the corner to find a Scorpion tank, humanity's answer to the Wraith. I jump in and quickly eliminate the Covenant around me with this monster of a vehicle. And then I shot too close to myself and did a glorious backflip, earning some style points. This thing is pure power fantasy. It's armed with a heavy machine gun and its main cannon that is capable of wiping out waves of enemies in a single shot, and reducing even Wraiths to scrap in just a few. I mean, look at what this beast can do. Unfortunately, the tank's use has come to an end, but a funny little power-up is waiting nearby. Active camouflage, or invisibility for short. This lets me sneak up and backstab enemies easily, even letting me one-shot elites without being seen. I decided using the camo to skip the rest of the outside segment is a good idea, so I skedaddle my way back inside only to run out of camo right behind an elite major. For those of you who don't know, elite majors are the red elites. They have better AI, better health, they're just better in every way. So of course I pistol whip the back of his head and shoot a rocket at point blank range before somehow running away and getting away unharmed. Having a taste of stealth from the power-up a second ago, I was hooked. So I decided I would take on this next room entirely with stealth. Until I got spotted through this window and had to run. Seriously, how did that grunt even see me? I quickly run into the elevator so the elite major doesn't chase me down. Remember how I said this mission starts to get a bit repetitive? Yeah, that begins now. So I'm just gonna skip all that and show you a neat trick I found. During this bridge segment, you can actually see the end of the mission off to the left. Realistically, this is to foreshadow where you're headed. But Halo is a physics game, and that is what I intend to abuse. I discovered I can rocket jump over to the platform and hit my head on the floor and die. But if I get very lucky and aim at the correct angle, I can land on a slope and bounce to safety, effectively skipping a large portion of the level. Very early on in my attempts, I got a successful landing and almost made it to the top before a banshee claims my life when I try to hijack it. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure hijacking wasn't even in Halo 1 and was added in Halo 2, so this never would have worked. After many, and I mean many more tries, I finally land safely again and had another chance. This time I managed to shoot down all the banshees, and it's just a short walk until I finally reach the control room. Oh, right, there's enemies behind that door. Right. No, that's fine, that's great, that's awesome. So yeah, anyway, I decided to just run as fast as I can and steal a banshee out of pure spite. I used the banshee to slowly and easily clear out the area and finally find the control room. Oh hey look, my banshee's in the cutscene. I always loved messing with cutscenes in this game. Too bad the new Halo campaign Evolved will have pre-rendered cutscenes and this won't be possible anymore. Welcome to the control room. We insert Cortana into the control console and she discovers a horrifying secret trapped deep below the ring. Without explaining herself, she orders us to rush over and stop Captain Keyes from accidentally unleashing whatever it is upon the universe. Oh my god, I burnt the hell out of the roof of my mouth with pizza pockets and it's giving me a lisp. So we leave Cortana plugged in and part ways for now, rushing over to the swamps. At least they're not poisonous. Welcome to 343 Guilty Spark, my favorite mission in all of the Halo series. This mission is what kickstarted my love for horror that has only grown to this day, and on top of that, it is absolutely a masterclass in environmental storytelling. You start off dropping into a swamp with the only real information being that Keyes came here 12 hours earlier, on a search for a weapon stash that is really a prison of some kind, with some horribly dangerous entity locked away. As you traverse the level, things get weirder and weirder. It starts with some alien-looking plants as well as crashed ships, human and Covenant alike. Things just feel wrong. The fog, the lack of enemy density. It's so ominous and it feels like you're just fighting what's left of the enemy, not their real force. Then as the tension is building, you start to notice sounds of something moving just out of view. followed by some weird creatures darting between trees in the background. Things calm down a bit, and you enter the facility. After you descend, the first group of grunts and jackals you run into are all huddled together, almost in fear. As you go deeper and deeper into this so-called armory, things just get stranger and stranger. First, it's a weird green ooze dripping from the ceiling. Then it's barricaded doors with swaths of dead Covenant behind them, as if they made their last stand and lost. Abandoned rooms that seem to once be heavily fortified choke points, but not a single sight of the Marines you're looking for, or Captain Keyes. That is, until you find this Marine. Weirdly, your reticle doesn't deem him friend or foe. It doesn't light up green, nor does it red. Then he opens fire on you, completely traumatized, and starts rambling about not wanting to be turned into something, and saying there are monsters everywhere, narrating about how he played dead to survive before resorting to screaming again, followed by the names of his former comrades, saying that these monsters took them. After this, he stops talking and just keeps firing at you. If none of the other oddities before this alerted you, then this is where it now becomes undeniable. Something is here. Something utterly horrifying, and it's not the Covenant. All you know is they definitely dug too deep. After this encounter, you pass a door with a warning light on it. If you get closer, you hear some strange noises, but can't enter. Then, as you go down the ramp in the next room, a cutscene plays. The chief hears something behind him and checks his back only to see nothing there. Then he opens the room, a dead Marine falls onto him, and he discovers a helmet left behind by the Marines with a recording embedded. This is that recording.
Why do we always have to listen to this old stuff, Sarge?
Watch your mouth, son. This stuff is your history. It should remind you grunts what we're fighting to protect.
Hey, if the Covenant want to wipe out this particular part of my history, that's fine by me.
Yeah, better it than us.
You ask them real nice next time you see them, Vicente. I'm sure they'll be happy to oblige.
LZ looks clear. I'm bringing us down.
Go, go, go! Stay close, Jenkins. Mendoza, move it up! Wait here for the captain and his squad, then get your ass inside.
Sir!
Okay, let's move!
Which is weird, right? I mean, look at it. Something scrambled the insides.
What's that? Plasma scoring?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was an accident, you know, friendly fire or something?
What do we have, Sergeant?
Looks like a Covenant patrol. Badass elite units. All KIA.
Real pretty. Friend of yours?
Nah, we just met.
Right, well, let's get this door open.
I'll try, sir. But it looks like these Covenant worked pretty hard to lock it down.
Just do it, son.
Yes, sir. I got a bad feeling about this.
Boy, you always got a bad feeling about something.
Sarge, can you hear me?
What's going on, soldier?
We've got contacts, lots of them, but they're not Covenant. They're just staring through us. What the? Oh no!
Corporal, do you copy? Over. Mendoza, get your ass back up to second squad's position and find out what the hell is going on.
But-
I don't have time for your lip, soldier. I gave you an order.
Sarge! Listen!
What is that?
Where's that coming from,
Everywhere.
Mendoza?
I don't... There! Mira!
Hold still! Hold still! Let him have it! Sergeant, we're surrounded. God damn it, Jenkins! Fire your weapon!
There are too many,
Don't
Sarge!
even think about it, Marine.
Oh, this is local!
Back here, Marine! That's an order!
Jenkins!
we see our first glimpse of the Flood, an apocalyptic eldritch hive mind that once nearly devoured the universe, and we just let it free. Or to be more exact, the Covenant did. Our goal has quickly changed from a rescue mission to an escape mission. Flood infection forms flood into the room, no pun intended. Oh, and fun fact, these tiny seeming infection forms actually vary between 2 to 4 feet in height. They simply appear tiny to the chief because he's 7'2" at nearly 1,000 pounds. Anyway, right now we need to retrace our steps and escape, but the rooms that were once empty are now filled with the Flood. These infection forms aren't all the Flood has to offer. The real problem, well, real problem for now, is the combat forms. Infected and strengthened versions of elites and humans alike. Though, with new problems come new solutions. Meet this shotgun. God, I love this thing. It just makes me want to.
Rip and tear until it is done.
Oh hey, it's Wheatley. The passive-aggressive volleyball tells us the Flood has been freed, and asks for our assistance in containing them again by forcibly teleporting us into the library. This level is widely considered to be the worst level in the entire Halo trilogy, so I'm not going to force you to experience it in full, but in case you haven't experienced it yourself in the past, let me explain the gist of it. Imagine a pizza that splits itself into 4 to 8 slices. Each slice represents a room that you have to clear as you work your way through the mission, each having its own set of Flood you have to fight, generally getting harder the more slices you eat, as well as introducing new weapons or variations of the Flood as you go further in, and generally higher Flood density. Each slice itself takes a few minutes of constant fighting to clear, and if you die you generally get sent back 1 or 2 slices. Dying will happen a lot, especially when you see the dreaded rocket Flood. Now, take that pizza with 4 to 8 slices and stack it 4 high. That is the library. You circle around the entire floor, then you ascend to the next on repeat with no end in sight. It is incredibly difficult, incredibly repetitive, and the developers were aware of this when making it. How do I know? Well, they make fun of you on each elevator as you go to the next floor. Honestly, I kind of find this level funny and a bit endearing, as it absolutely is intended to frustrate the player, and in my opinion, is just incredibly crafted rage bait. So here's a small compilation of the brutal hour-and-a-half long fisting session Bungie cooked up for me. Index, give me the index, get me out of here, get me out of here. With the index in our hands, now we can activate Halo and wipe out the Flood for good. Except if you know anything about Halo, you know that's a class 5 oopsie whoopsie. As Cortana informs us, the activation of the Halo ring would wipe out all life within 25,000 light years. And if it hooks up with other Halos, the entire universe. With this new information, Chief decides he'd rather not wipe out all life in existence and decides to instead locate and detonate the Pillar of Autumn to destroy Halo while the Flood are still on it, which greatly angers Wheatley, causing him to sick his sentinels on us. We quickly wipe out his sentinels with some well-placed energy pistol shots and head outside only to be greeted by the Covenant. But we don't really have time to mess with them right now, we've got a universe to save. So I grab a rocket launcher, blast them, and steal one of their Banshees. Now, the Pillar of Autumn is much too far away for us to travel there in this Banshee, and we need Key's access codes. So Cortana devises the plan for me to run headfirst into a few laser beams around the area, which will somehow let her use the Forerunner's teleportation technology against them, and teleport us to Key's so that we can work together with him to detonate the Pillar of Autumn. The first one's already out of the way, leaving 2 more generators to go. These next 2, unfortunately, would be a lot more difficult to reach. I jump into my Banshee only to immediately jump back out 3.5 seconds later when the game tells me I'm due another 20 cc's of liquid cookie cutter mobbing rooms injected into my frontal lobe. I quickly breeze through the first room only for a second room to hit me like a freight train. Now, this room really isn't anything crazy. It's effectively some Flood fighting some Covenant, and much like an Apex Legends game, I'm the third party. I even have a rocket launcher, a shotgun, and a bunch of nades, so I should be good, right? Wrong. You see, the shotgun is really only good at dealing with flesh. The Elite's energy shields shrug off shotgun shells like they're Epstein allegations levied against high-ranking US government officials. Needless to say, I may as well have not even shot them. So I end up having to use the rocket launcher and grenades to strip them of their shields before swapping to the shotgun to finish them off. This would be incredibly effective if it weren't for the fact that we are indoors and the boom provided by my explosives is quite large, leading to a lot of friendly fire. After about 8 attempts, I figure out it's a bad idea to localize suns about 2 feet from where I'm standing. And I end up clearing the room and then moving on to the bridge section, which I first try. Like a boss. Yeah, I bet that was a throwback, and I might have cringed a little recording that. The bridge was a short respite before I'm thrown right back into the deep end, but this time facing just Flood. Finally, my glorious shotgun can shine bright yet again, one-shotting every combat form that dares enter my field of view. So what's the problem with this room? It's just Flood and I have the single best anti-Flood weapon in the game. Well, the problem is the Flood. Rocket Flood to be specific. I swear the sheer amount of schadenfreude the developers must feel every single time a clip of the Rocket Flood emerges must be immense. These things are vile abominations, true hellspawn. And to make matters worse, they hid this little shit 2/3 of the way down a hallway, so I can't even figure out where he is to nade him. I end up dying in this room 4 times before I finally manage to take it slow and snipe the Rocket Flood, clearing the room and reaching a save point. After that, it's just a quick bridge segment and some more indoor mobbing before I make it back outside. Wait a second, outside, but I had a Banshee. Why couldn't I just fly around that whole segment? Why did I have to do any of that? Generator 2 wasn't even in there. Anyway, I grab a ghost that was kindly left for me, very slowly working my way through the outdoor enemies. Yes, the ghost can kill wraiths. Yes, it took like 3 minutes. Eventually, I find a Banshee, run some strafing runs, and yet again, the game tells me I was having too much fun and forces me to land. Seriously, just let me fly the Banshee. That thing is a blast, literally and metaphorically. Speaking of blasts, I run into the generator head first like a human toddler's genetic call of the void and then return to my beloved Banshee. And what do you know? Bungie loves indoor sections so much that they decided to have an indoor Banshee segment too. Honestly, this part was a little silly with how Halo 1's Banshee mechanics work. It only hovers if you hold forward. Let go for a second and it just falls. This led to me just running a ton of slow strafing runs until I deemed it safe enough to fly deeper down. But yet again, Bungie giveth and Bungie taketh away. The door breaks and my Banshee won't fit, and thus I leave it behind. I crawl my way through the tunnel, back outside, and grab a ghost. The last generator is up in the air, so my goal is to find another Banshee. Again, I'm not sure why I couldn't have just flown over the mountain instead of under, but it is what it is. Using the ghost, I push my way through a few groups of Covenant and Flood alike before spotting some Banshees. The only problem was, I had to get through a dozen Rocket Flood, Elites, Jackals, 2 Wraiths, and a few Hunters so that I could safely take off. This felt like I was ramming my head into a wall for about 20 minutes with no progress. I first tried slowly taking out the Rocket Flood and slowly whittling down the Covenant's fortifications with a mix of rockets and ghost spam, but I would always end up dying somehow. First to a Wraith, then to a Rocket Flood, and my closest run was lost to a Hunter. Eventually I gave up on this idea and devised a new, utterly brilliant plan not even Megamind could have cooked up. Yeah, I just ran past past everyone and jumped into Banshee. I know, genius, right? The first attempt ended with me spontaneously combusting right as I touched the Banshee. The second attempt, I didn't even reach the thing. The third, I was able to get in and fly a few feet, and finally, after waiting behind a giant rock, the enemy forgot I was there long enough that I was able to steal the Banshee and fly off towards Generator 3. The end of the level was so close I could practically taste it. Just a quick victory flight as well as a few sentinels and boom, mission complete. With the generators destroyed, Cortana teleports us to Captain Keyes so we can work together with him and destroy Halo once and for all. Oh, wait a second, what's that over there? It's probably not important. Cortana messed up the teleport by a few feet and a couple of degrees as we were upside down, so we had to jump down to Half-Life 1 Zen, Covenant Oil Spill Edition, to find a different entrance to the Corvette we just fell out of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the only section in the entire Halo franchise that Master Chief can fully submerge his body in a liquid without instantly dying. Normally this level is pretty fast. You make your way through a couple open areas and hallways that have groups of Covenant and Flood fighting each other, eventually making your way to the grav lift and then retracing your steps from a previous mission and reaching Keyes in the Corvette's bridge. Unfortunately for me, this level is affected by the boom and Sputnik skulls the most. You see, Flood carrier forms tend to explode rather violently when killed. But you see, that alone isn't the problem. No. The problem is when there are multiple carrier forms. One explodes, thus launching the others around in random directions, sometimes causing them to explode right next to you, instantly killing you. Isn't this possible on any Flood level, you may ask? Well, yes, but something makes this one just a little special. Due to the curved, narrow corridors, when the Flood forms explode and launch their buddies around, they tend to fly in a very predictable pattern. And by predictable pattern, I mean your face. They fly into your face. Enemies spawn in the room ahead of the player, meaning that every single time you round a corner, there just so happens to already be an exploding carrier form in your face that just flew from across the map. I wish I was exaggerating, but look at this. Just gotta be careful of any flying. Or an explosion. Okay. Oh, no, we're not good, see? They're just flying in here. But wait, there's more. It's a building maze.
We should head this way.
No. Luckily, after that chaos, it was a pretty straight shot to the grav lift and into the Corvette. Now we just need to find Captain Keyes, who I'm sure is totally alive and well. I have some quick encounters with my arch nemesis, the carrier form, but overall it wasn't too bad compared to my past trauma, and finally we reached the bridge. It turns out that glob we saw earlier was in fact Captain Keyes, or what's left of him. The Flood has turned him into a proto-gravemind, and if you know what that is, you know just how screwed this entire ring is, as well as the universe at large if we don't act fast. We quickly give Keyes an invasive rhinoplasty and lobotomy buy one get one free special, and grab the access codes to the Pillar of Autumn from him in the process. After that, I quickly make my way to the hangar and pull an absolutely sick Banshee Grand Theft Auto before flying off to the Pillar of Autumn to end this thing. This is the last level of Halo 1, and it's definitely one to remember. All of the enemy factions who have been built up through the game are all here and all fighting for their own views. The Flood are fighting to escape Halo and spread endlessly. The Covenant are fighting to protect the Halo because to them it's a sacred holy relic for their great journey. The Sentinels along with Guilty Spark are also fighting to save Halo, but are fighting to activate it, wiping out the Flood along with all known sentient life in the universe. And lastly us, the sole living human on the ring, fighting to destroy the ring, the Covenant, the Flood, and the Sentinels alike. 4 factions all fighting each other all at once. This level is chaos incarnate. After our crash landing, we work our way through the derelict ruins of the Pillar of Autumn from the first mission. Oh yeah, by the way, remember the Flood carrier forms from the last mission? Yeah, they're still a problem. We quickly work our way through the corridors and cafeteria, fighting Flood and Covenant alike, even a couple hunters as special guests. Finally, we reach the bridge and Cortana attempts to overload the reactor to set off an explosion big enough to destroy Halo. She sets a timer for 16 minutes, and right before we set off to escape the ship, Guilty Spark chips in and, like a supervillain, monologues about stealing all of our data and informs us he is also in the process of ruining our plans. Cortana gets tired of his yapping and bans him from our Discord server. Then we set off to try and manually set the reactor into meltdown. We walk our way through a couple of Sentinel vs. Flood gang wars before stopping by the armory to prepare for our final fight. After gearing up, we head into the engineering room. Our goal here is to cause the reactor to melt down, but since we've been booted from the ship's controls, how are we going to do that? Well, with explosions! We have to deactivate these cooling vents one by one by landing a rocket or grenade into the intake. This is easier said than done though, with the Flood and Sentinel on our back, especially due to the general lack of cover on the second floor of this room. Oh yeah, and my own explosives are also still a problem. And don't forget about the enemy's explosives. Eventually I figured out how to avoid sudden and instant death via large quantities of boom directly towards my frail and nimble body, and decided to instead die from gravity. After a few more failed attempts, I managed to destroy all 4 injectors. Now there's no stopping the reactor from going critical. So we need to leave, and fast. Luckily at the top of engineering there's an elevator to the vehicle bay, which has a couple warthogs lying around. And now we're in the final stretch. Really nothing I could say from here would do it justice, so I'll see you later, Space Cowboy.
Here we go.
This is it, baby. Hold me.
Shut them down, we'll need them later.
It's not the way for me. Only a mile to go. Somewhere I
Fancy a look?
belong. I see it clearer now. I feel like I'm all out of time. So tell me you stay behind. Make sure I get to the end.
Did anyone else make it?
Scanning. Just dust and echoes. We're all that's left. We did what we had to do. For Earth. An entire Covenant armada obliterated, and the Flood. We had no choice. Halo. It's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.